But let me take you back to where this really started. Growing up as the younger brother of Tyler James meant living in a permanent state of comparison. Tyler was everything our parents wanted. Athletic, charismatic, confident in a way that commanded rooms and attracted opportunities. I was quieter, more analytical, the kind of kid who preferred books to ball games and calculations to conversations. Our father, Richard James, had built a modest construction company over 30 years. Hard work, honest deals, nothing flashy. He retired when I was in college, sold the business to his foreman, and spent his remaining years fishing and occasionally reminding us that real men built things with their hands. He never quite understood what I did. Neither did Tyler. Ethan's good with numbers, Tyler would explain to people the same way you might describe a dog that could do tricks. Impressive in a limited way but not something to take seriously. Tyler's path was always clear. He'd charm his way through life, find investors who believed in his vision, and build an empire based on personality rather than substance. My path was murkier. I went to state school, studied finance, and took a job at a regional bank that nobody had ever heard of. The divergence in our trajectories seemed to confirm what everyone already believed. Tyler was destined for greatness and I was destined to watch. What nobody knew was that I'd been watching very carefully. And I'd been learning. The regional bank where I started, First Commerce of Ohio, was a sleepy institution with outdated systems and risk-averse management. Perfect for someone who wanted to learn without being noticed. I spent my first 3 years in the credit analysis department, reviewing loan applications and learning to read the stories hidden in financial statements. I could tell within 30 seconds whether a business would succeed or fail. The numbers never lied even when the owners did. By year 4, I'd developed a side interest in distressed assets. Properties and businesses that banks had given up on, priced for liquidation rather than potential. I started small, using my savings to purchase a foreclosed duplex that I renovated and rented. Then another. Then a small strip mall that everyone said was worthless. Within 5 years, my side portfolio was generating more income than my banking salary. Within 7, I'd quietly accumulated $3.2 million in real estate holdings across 3 states. I never told my family. There was no reason to. Tyler was the success story they wanted to tell at parties and I was content to build in silence. But then Tyler decided to open a restaurant. The concept was Tyler's dream made manifest. An upscale waterfront restaurant specializing in locally sourced seafood and craft cocktails. He'd found the perfect location in Charleston, South Carolina, a renovated warehouse with views of the harbor and foot traffic from the tourist district. The problem was the numbers. I saw the business plan when Tyler presented it at a family dinner, seeking our parents' blessing and whatever financial support they could offer. The projections were fantasy. His cost estimates were 40% below industry standards. His revenue forecasts assumed maximum capacity from day one. His timeline for profitability ignored the brutal reality that 60% of restaurants fail within their first year. "What do you think, Ethan?" Dad asked, more out of courtesy than genuine interest. "The waterfront location is strong," I said carefully. "But the capital requirements seem underestimated. You might want to build in more runway for unexpected expenses." Tyler laughed. "That's Ethan. Always finding problems. This is why you work at a bank and I'm building something real." Everyone chuckled. I smiled and said nothing. 6 months later, Tyler was struggling. His build-out cost had exceeded projections by $200,000. His opening had been delayed twice. The investors he'd lined up were getting nervous and 2 had already pulled out. He needed $1.2 million to finish construction and fund operations through the critical first year. He had access to about $400,000. That's when I made a decision that would define our relationship for the next 4 years. I created Meridian Hospitality Partners, a shell company with no visible connection to Ethan James. Through Meridian, I offered Tyler the remaining $800,000 he needed, structured as a combination of equity investment and subordinated debt. The terms were favorable but not suspiciously so. Meridian would own 35% of James Harbor Grill, with standard protective provisions and a buyout clause that could be exercised under specific conditions. My lawyer handled everything through intermediaries. Tyler never knew his silent partner was his little brother. "I don't understand where this offer came from," Tyler told me on the phone, excitement barely contained. "This investment group just appeared out of nowhere. They believe in my vision, Ethan. They see what I'm building. That's great, I said. Just make sure you read the fine print. Already signed. This is it, little brother. This is my moment. I didn't point out that his moment had been manufactured by the brother he'd spent 30 years dismissing. I just congratulated him and went back to building my own empire. James Harbor Grill opened 14 months behind schedule and $340,000 over budget. But Tyler was right about one thing. The location was perfect. The restaurant filled a gap in Charleston's dining scene, and within 6 months, it had become a genuine hot spot. Food critics praised the seafood. Instagram influencers photographed every dish. Tyler was featured in Charleston magazine as an emerging culinary entrepreneur. He hired a publicist, bought a waterfront condo, and started dating a local news anchor who would eventually become his wife. Through Meridian, I received monthly financial reports and quarterly distributions. The restaurant was profitable if barely. Tyler's management was chaotic, his spending undisciplined, but the strength of the concept and location compensated for his weaknesses. I could have intervened. As a 35% owner, I had the right to request operational changes, to demand better financial controls, to push for the kind of discipline that would maximize long-term value. That I watched. And I waited. Part of me wanted Tyler to succeed on his own merits. He was my brother despite everything. If James Harbor Grill could thrive under his leadership, I'd be happy to remain a silent partner forever, collecting my distributions and keeping the family peace. But another part of me knew Tyler better than he knew himself. He'd always needed validation more than success. He'd always chosen appearance over substance. Sooner or later, those tendencies would create a crisis that forced the truth into the open. I just had to be patient. Success changed Tyler, and not for the better. As James Harbor Grill's reputation grew, so did his spending. The waterfront condo became a waterfront house. The used BMW became a new Porsche. The modest wedding his fiancée wanted became a destination event in the Bahamas that cost $180,000. He also started treating the restaurant's revenues as his personal bank account. Monthly draws increased. Expense reports included items that had nothing to do with the business. The financial reports I received showed profitability declining even as revenue grew. I raised concerns through my lawyer, who communicated them to Tyler as coming from the anonymous investor group. Meridian is concerned about owner distributions, my lawyer wrote. Current draw levels are unsustainable and may impact operational stability. Tyler's response was predictable. Tell your clients that I built this restaurant from nothing, he replied. I know what I'm doing. If they don't like my management style, they can exercise their buyout clause. He didn't understand what he was offering. The buyout clause in our agreement wasn't just an exit mechanism. It was a takeover provision. If I exercised it, Meridian would acquire Tyler's remaining 65% at a predetermined formula based on trailing revenues. Given his inflated spending, the formula would value his stake at approximately $700,000, far less than he'd invested. I filed the exchange away for future reference and continued watching. Tyler married Jennifer Hartwell on a beach in Nassau, surrounded by 200 guests who'd flown in on the couple's dime. Jennifer was beautiful, ambitious, and absolutely convinced that she'd married into a fortune. She hadn't. Tyler's lifestyle was built on restaurant revenues that were increasingly insufficient to support it. His credit cards were maxed. His house was mortgaged to the hilt. The Porsche was leased. Everything was smoke and mirrors, a performance of success that would collapse the moment anyone looked too closely. I attended the wedding alone, seated at a table with distant cousins and college friends who hadn't made the A-list. During the reception, Tyler gave a speech about building his dream and finding a partner who believed in his vision. When everyone doubted me, he said, raising his glass, Jennifer saw my potential. She's the first person who truly believed I could be great. Our mother dabbed her eyes. Our father nodded approvingly. Jennifer beamed as if she'd won a prize. I finished my champagne and thought about the $800,000 I'd invested in Tyler's dream, money he didn't know existed, belief he'd never acknowledged. The next morning, I authorized an additional $400,000 investment through Meridian to cover the restaurant's growing operational gaps. My total exposure to James Harbor Grill was now $1.2 million. Tyler would never know. And he would never be grateful. Tyler and Jennifer's 5th wedding anniversary was celebrated at James Harbor Grill, naturally. They'd rented out the entire restaurant for a party that rivaled their wedding in extravagance. I received my invitation 3 weeks before the event, a formal card that felt more like an obligation than a welcome. Tyler and I had drifted further apart in recent years. Our conversations were limited to holidays and family emergencies. He'd become increasingly absorbed in his image as a successful restaurateur, and I'd remained the quiet brother who worked at a bank. What Tyler didn't know was that the bank had been a cover story for years. I'd left First Commerce when my personal portfolio hit $8 million, transitioning to full-time management of Meridian Holdings, my real estate and investment company. Current assets: $23 million across 47 properties and 6 business investments. James Harbor Grill was my least profitable holding but most personal. Every month I read the financial reports and watched Tyler edge closer to disaster. Every quarter, I authorized additional capital injections to keep the restaurant afloat. Every year Tyler took credit for a success he hadn't earned and couldn't sustain. The anniversary party felt like a final act in a play I'd been watching for half a decade. I arrived at 8, dressed appropriately but not extravagantly. The restaurant was transformed with white flowers, crystal stemware, and a jazz quartet playing standards in the corner. Tyler and Jennifer held court near the bar, accepting congratulations from Charleston's social elite. "Ethan." Tyler spotted me and waved me over with the expansive gesture of a man who'd had several drinks. "Everyone, this is my brother. The numbers guy." His friends nodded politely, clearly uninterested. "Still at the bank?" Jennifer asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer and found it disappointing. "Something like that," I said. "Ethan's great with spreadsheets," Tyler explained. "Not so great at building things. Some people are doers and some people are watchers, right, little brother?" "That's one way to look at it." Tyler laughed and slapped my shoulder. "I love this guy. Always so serious. Loosen up, Ethan. Have a drink. Tonight's about celebrating success." I ordered a bourbon and found a quiet spot at the end of the bar. The restaurant was beautiful, I had to admit. Whatever his flaws, Tyler had created something genuinely special in this space. The problem was that he'd created it with my money and would never know or appreciate that fact. The speech came an hour into the party. Tyler clinked his glass and called for attention. Jennifer stood beside him, radiant in a dress that probably cost more than his quarterly profits. "5 years ago I married the love of my life," Tyler began. "5 years ago I also proved everyone wrong. They said the restaurant business was too hard. They said I didn't have what it takes. They said Tyler James would never amount to anything." He paused for dramatic effect. "Well, look around. James Harbor Grill is a Charleston institution. We've been profitable every single year. We've built something that will last. And we did it without help from anyone." Jennifer squeezed his hand adoringly. "I want to thank my beautiful wife for believing in me, my parents for their support, my staff for their dedication. This success belongs to all of us." He raised his glass. The crowd cheered. Then his eyes found me at the bar. "And I want to thank my brother Ethan for being here tonight. For those who don't know, Ethan works at a bank in Ohio. He's great at counting other people's money, even if he's never built anything himself." Scattered laughter. Jennifer smirked. "Ethan's actually asked me for advice over the years. About investing, about business, about taking risks. And I always tell him the same thing. You can't learn success from a spreadsheet. You have to go out and grab it." More laughter. My grip tightened on my glass. "So here's to the doers," Tyler continued, raising his glass higher. "The builders. The risk takers. And yes, even to the watchers like my brother who support us from the sidelines. We love you anyway, Ethan." The crowd applauded. Tyler basked in their approval. I should have let it go. Should have finished my drink, made my excuses, and driven home to process the humiliation in private. Instead, I walked toward him. The crowd parted as I approached. Tyler watched me come with a puzzled smile, uncertain whether I was approaching to hug him or confront him. "Great speech," I said. "Thanks, little brother. I meant every word." "I know you did. That's what makes this interesting." Tyler's smile faltered. "Makes what interesting?" "Your perspective on success. On building things. On doing versus watching." "Ethan, this isn't the time." You said you did all this without help from anyone. That's what you said. Without help from anyone. That's right. Everything you see here I built myself. Interesting perspective. I pulled out my phone and texted my lawyer. Execute the buyout on James Harbor Grill. Full acquisition. Tonight. Tyler watched me type. What are you doing? Building something. 45 seconds later, the sous chef burst through the kitchen doors, looking frantically around the room. He spotted Tyler and pushed through the crowd. Chef, you need to come to the office. Something's happening. There are documents coming through. Legal stuff about the ownership. Tyler's face went pale. What kind of legal stuff? I don't understand all of it, but someone's buying us out. The whole restaurant. Effective immediately. Jennifer's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. The party ended abruptly. Tyler spent the next 2 hours in his office on the phone with his lawyer, trying to understand what was happening. I waited at the bar, sipping bourbon and watching his staff whisper to each other about the chaos unfolding behind closed doors. Jennifer confronted me first. What did you do? She demanded, mascara already running. Who did you call? I made a business decision. What business decision? You work at a bank in Ohio. You don't have the authority to do anything. That's what Tyler believes. It's not accurate. What does that mean? I finished my bourbon. It means your husband should have paid more attention to who was actually funding his success. Tyler emerged from his office at midnight, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 2 hours. His lawyer had finally explained the situation. Meridian Hospitality Partners, the anonymous investor group that had funded James Harbor Grill's launch and sustained it through 5 years of undisciplined management, was exercising its buyout clause. The formula in the agreement calculated Tyler's 65% stake at $712,000 based on trailing revenues. But Tyler had drawn over $1.1 million from the business in personal expenses over the past 3 years, money that would be clawed back under the agreement's fraud provisions. After accounting for those draws, Tyler's net payout would be approximately negative $388,000. He owed the investor money, not the other way around. Who is Meridian? Tyler asked, his voice hollow. Who's been behind this the whole time? I stood up from the bar and faced my brother. I am. The silence stretched for 10 seconds. That's impossible, Tyler said. You work at a bank. You rent an apartment. You drive a Honda. I own 47 properties across 6 states. I manage a portfolio worth $23 million. I left the bank 4 years ago. The Honda is a personal choice. You're lying. I handed him my phone, open to my Meridian Holdings dashboard. Assets, properties, investments, cash positions. Everything. Tyler scrolled through the numbers, his hands shaking. This doesn't make sense. You've been pretending to be poor while secretly being the only reason your restaurant exists. Yes. I've invested $1.2 million in James Harbor Grill over 5 years. I've covered your shortfalls. I've funded your expansions. I've paid for your fantasy of success while you called me a failure at every family gathering. Why? Why would you do that? Because you're my brother. Because I wanted you to succeed. Because I thought maybe if the restaurant took off you'd grow into someone who could actually manage it. Someone who didn't need a silent partner propping him up. And now you're taking it away because I hurt your feelings? No. I'm taking it away because you announced to a room full of people that you built everything without help from anyone. Because your wife looked at me like I was dirt on her shoe. Because 5 years of secret support has taught me that you'll never see me as anything other than the little brother who watches from the sidelines. I stepped closer. You called me a financial parasite. Said I was always needing help. But I've never needed help, Tyler. Not once. You've needed help every single month for 5 years. The only parasite in this family is the one who's been draining a business he didn't build. Tyler sat down heavily in the nearest chair. What happens now? Now I own 100% of James Harbor Grill. I'll hire a real management team. I'll implement financial controls. I'll turn your vanity project into a profitable business. And me? You owe me $388,000. We can work out a payment plan or I can pursue it through legal channels. Your choice. Jennifer started crying. Tyler stared at the floor. I walked toward the door. Ethan, wait. I turned. I'm sorry. Tyler said, his voice cracking. I didn't know. I know you didn't. That's the whole point. You never bothered to find out. The next 6 months were a complete restructuring of James Harbor Grill and, unexpectedly, the James family. I brought in a professional management team that cut costs, improved operations, and transformed Tyler's money pit into a genuinely profitable restaurant. Within 4 months, we'd increased margins by 34% while maintaining the quality that had built the restaurant's reputation. Tyler and Jennifer separated 2 months after the anniversary party. She'd married him for a lifestyle he couldn't afford, and when the illusion collapsed, so did their relationship. Last I heard, she was dating a plastic surgeon in Miami. Tyler took a job as a line cook at a restaurant in Savannah. Not because he had to, but because he said he needed to learn the business from the ground up. It was the first time in his life he'd chosen humility over appearance. We didn't speak for 3 months after that night. The silence was probably necessary, time for both of us to process what had happened and what it meant. Dad called me in July, 6 months after the buyout. Tyler told me everything, he said. About your company. About the investment. About what you did for him. And I'm proud of you, Ethan. I should have said that a long time ago. I was so busy comparing you to your brother that I never saw what you were actually building. That seems to be a family pattern. It is. And I'm sorry for my part in it. I visited Tyler in Savannah that August. He was living in a small apartment, working 60-hour weeks, learning to cook professionally for the first time despite owning a restaurant for 5 years. I was a fraud, he admitted over beers at a dive bar near his apartment. Everything you said was true. I built a fantasy and convinced myself it was real. The restaurant wasn't a fantasy. The concept was sound. The execution just needed work. The execution needed you. I was too proud to see it. You were too proud to look. He nodded, accepting the distinction. What happens now? With the restaurant, I mean. I'm thinking about offering you a job. Executive chef. Real salary, real responsibilities, real accountability. But only if you can handle working for your little brother. Tyler laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd heard from him in years. I think I can manage that. James Harbor Grill won its first Charleston Culinary Award in its 7th year of operation. Tyler accepted the award on stage, thanking the staff, the community, and his brother, who believed in this restaurant before anyone else did, and who taught me that real success is about more than appearances. I watched from a table near the back where I preferred to be. After the ceremony, Tyler found me in the crowd. You should have been up there, he said. You built this as much as I did. I funded it. You built it. There's a difference. A difference I didn't understand for a long time. We walked out to the harbor, looking at the water where Tyler had once dreamed of building his empire. The restaurant glowed behind us, full of diners who had no idea about the complicated history that had brought it to this moment. Do you regret it? Tyler asked. The buyout? Exposing everything? No. I regret that it was necessary. I regret 5 years of watching you credit yourself for something I built. But the buyout itself? That was the only thing that could have changed us. Changed me, you mean? Changed both of us. I spent so long being invisible that I forgot how to be seen. Forcing the truth into the open was as much for me as it was for you. Tyler nodded slowly. I called you a financial parasite. I remember. I was describing myself. I just didn't know it yet. We stood in silence. Brothers who had spent 30 years misunderstanding each other finally reaching something like clarity. I want to buy back in, Tyler said eventually. When I've saved enough. I want to earn a stake in the restaurant instead of inheriting one. That could take years. I know. That's the point. I extended my hand. He shook it. Deal. People ask me sometimes whether I've forgiven Tyler. Whether the years of dismissal and the public humiliation at his anniversary party are truly behind us. The answer is complicated, like most things involving family. I've forgiven him in the sense that I no longer carry anger about the past. He was a product of how our family worked, a system that needed one winner and one loser, one success story and one cautionary tale. Tyler played the role he was assigned, and so did I. What I haven't forgiven is the waste. The years when he could have been learning from me instead of dismissing me. The money I poured into his dream while he mocked my supposedly small life. The potential we both lost to a family dynamic that pitted us against each other instead of building us up together. But forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation, and reconciliation isn't the same as trust. We're building all three slowly, one honest conversation at a time. Tyler made his first investment payment last month. $10,000 toward his ownership stake in James Harbor Grill. At his current salary, it will take him 12 years to buy back even a 10% stake. He made the payment anyway. It's not about the money, he told me. It's about proving I can build something real. Something I've actually earned. I looked at my brother, finally seeing him clearly and being seen clearly in return. That's all I ever wanted, I said. He nodded. Me too. I just didn't know it. Last week, I received an invitation to Tyler's culinary school graduation. At 43, he'd gone back to get formal training, learning the foundations he'd skipped when he decided to become a restaurateur based on ambition alone. The ceremony was small, held in a community college auditorium with folding chairs and fluorescent lighting. A far cry from the waterfront extravagance of his anniversary party. Tyler received his certificate and gave a short speech. I used to think success was about appearances, he said. About convincing people you'd made it. I built a restaurant on borrowed money and borrowed time, and I convinced myself that made me an entrepreneur. It took losing everything to understand what building really means. It means starting from the ground. It means earning instead of inheriting. It means being grateful for the people who believe in you, even when you don't deserve it. He looked directly at me. My brother taught me that. The hard way. But he taught me. After the ceremony, we went to a diner near the school. Tyler ordered coffee and pie, nothing fancy. I'm ready to come back, he said. To the restaurant. Full time. As what? Whatever you need. Line cook. Prep cook. I don't care about titles anymore. How about head chef? The position's been open since Martinez left. Tyler's eyes widened. You're serious? You've earned it. The certification, the training, the 12 months of proving you can do the work without the ego. That's what I've been waiting for. And the buyout? The money I still owe. Consider it a long-term investment. You can pay it back through performance bonuses over the next decade. Or you can walk away right now and we'll call it even. Why would I walk away? Because working for your little brother might be harder than you think. Because the power dynamic will be different this time. Because you'll have to prove yourself every day to someone who's already seen you at your worst. Tyler considered this for a long moment. Good, he said finally. That's exactly what I need. We shook hands across the diner table, sealing a partnership that should have existed from the beginning. One condition, I added. Name it. Next anniversary party you thank me in the speech. By name. In front of everyone. Tyler laughed. Done. But I'm warning you, it might get emotional. I'll survive. He raised his coffee cup. I raised mine. To brothers, he said. To building something real. We drank, and for the first time in our lives, we were finally on the same side.